read all about it. Get your copies while they last. Stop the presses.
And now for something completely different.
Are you ready for a little truth? Are we not entertained? Wisdom is the proper use of knowledge and experience. There are no safe spaces here. The truth shall make you free. It's showtime! So you want the truth, but can you handle the truth? Well, here's another fine mess you've gotten us into. Now that's entertainment. Enlighten me a little. What you say is quite logical. And what did we learn? Prepare yourself for a little sensory overload. I came here for the truth. 47 years ago, stand by the roll show intro. Roll show intro in 3, 2, 1, go.
This is the Craig L. Hayes Show.
Hello, America, friends, family, listeners all around this planet we call Earth and home and several other things. Anyways, it's the planet we call home. This is the Craig L. Hayes Show. I am Craig L. Hayes. It is great to have you here on the 6th of June, 2024. On another earlier podcast, I had talked a little bit about D-Day and some other subjects that were on my mind on how things have changed over the last 80 days. But today we're going to go back to some of a topic that I want to keep on discussing, and it is our Constitution and our Bill of Rights. We've already discussed in other podcasts the First Amendment and the Second Amendment. Today we're going to move on to the Third Amendment. It's very obscure. You don't ever hear about it because you really don't. We don't have this going on. So we're going to read it to you, and then you can take and look some of this stuff up to see if what I'm telling you is correct, and I encourage you to do so. Get your own research done. Don't believe anything anybody says, including me. Find out for yourselves. So the Third Amendment of the Constitution of the United States says no soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. Okay, very interesting. Why did we have to have that? Well, it's very simple. Back in the time when this was written, King George would use soldiers quartered in houses to get information on what was going on in the colonies. Basically, his soldiers were nothing more than spies planted in the houses of the colonies' citizens. Remember, they were all just subjects of the crown. King George, for some reason, people believe that, they have royal blood, they have royal births, they have royal whatever, As Americans, I find we should find any idea of a king other than the King of Kings, Jesus Christ himself, as being repugnant. The ideology of, oh, well, he was born as his family's all been kings for hundreds and hundreds of years, so we have to follow them and do what they say. Bite me on that stuff. Don't have to follow anybody like that. But at that time, people had to, because that's all anybody knew. Every nation in the world had a king. There were no democracies. There was no elections. There was none of that. They were subjects, meaning he could do anything he wanted with you. And one of those things he did was put his soldiers in there to spy on everybody he could in the colonies. So, with that being said, our founding fathers decided we're going to make it so that can't be done. The curious part about that is it can be done, but it has to be done by law. What would be going on in this nation that we would need to pass a law saying our soldiers need to be in your house? The only thing that comes to mind is maybe our soldiers, their bases, their shipyards, their whatever, had been destroyed by some massive attack or sneak attack by a Russia, a China, an Iran, a North Korea, something. That's the only thing I can think of. Why would even pass a law saying you need to take and every family needs to have one soldier in it or two soldiers in it so that they have someplace to live because their bases have been destroyed or they have nowhere else to go and we're fighting an enemy on our own soil, and so they're going to have to come live with people towards the interior of the nation in order to fight. That's the only thing I can think. And do I think that's possible? Absolutely. In fact, I'm pretty sure something like that is going to happen to this nation because of how far we've unmoored ourselves from the Constitution and from Judeo-Christian values. Also, let's look at it this way. If King George placed his soldiers in the house so he could spy on everybody, and we absolutely can't have that, and the federal government could not do that now. Governments aren't allowed to do that now. Really? Well, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit on that, only because of this. I see that going on right now regardless whether there's actual physical being in our house spying on us. How many of us have Alexa or other devices such as that in our house that listens to everything they're saying? How many of these companies such as Amazon, Google, YouTube, Gmails, whoever you want to say it, how many of them have devices in your house constantly listening? And who says the government's not allowed to take and pick up on that if they hear keywords being said in your house? Like you could just say something silly like, I hate the government, I think it should be overthrown. And all of a sudden, like, ooh, we got to listen to this guy. What's the difference between that from the NSA or CIA or somebody else listening to what you're saying within your house and having a soldier actually sitting in the room with you while you're talking or in the other room while you're talking, and he can hear what you're saying and then reports it back to his superiors? I think the Third Amendment's already been violated in our time. I think the federal government violates it nonstop, every day, all day. What do we do about it? Wow, what do we do about it? Well, once again, we have what's called choice. Do we want these things in our house? Do we want to be on social media? Do we want to use the internet? Because all these things are being observed, are being recorded, are being looked at, or can be looked at if they decide that you're an enemy. And remember, if they decide you're an enemy, they will find a way to make you that enemy, especially if you're going to speak out against them. If you don't believe me, ask Donald Trump. They found the man who decided he wanted to dismantle the garbage of Washington, D.C., and they found supposedly crimes to go after him for. All made up, all fabricated, all BS. But still they went after him. And isn't it amazing how even violating his rights, they still found him guilty? That judge was a disgrace. Both judges so far, the district attorneys, and the entire Democrat Party is all disgusting and scumbags. So, the Third Amendment. We're not allowed to have soldiers in our place, but we seem to violate that constitutional right ourselves voluntarily. It's the best of both worlds for the government. And I'm not saying I don't have any of this stuff. Of course I do. I'm on social media. I'm on, now I'm doing this podcast. So my thoughts and views are out there everywhere. What I believe is what I believe. I believe in the Constitution. I believe in our founding documents. I believe in the Declaration of Independence, that we have specific rights guaranteed to us or given to us by God, not government. Government has no rights. They have no authority other than that which we give them. The federal government violates the rights that God gave us constantly. So if they're willing to violate God-given rights, not rights granted by government, then can you imagine if we didn't have the Bill of Rights, what they would be doing to us in these times? I can't imagine other state or nation states in this world that don't have a Bill of Rights like ours. They have to be given rights by their government. Yeah. And government is so generous, passing out rights of, like, freedom of speech. And, of course, all governments of Europe and the South Pacific, like Australia, New Zealand, they just love passing out the rights to bear arms. Not. It's amazing. None of these countries allow their citizens to have guns. Only the government and the police. Wonder why. Anyways, that is the Third Amendment. I believe we're going to see that time where we're going to have law, or just common people are going to house soldiers in our own homes to give them some place to rest and feed them so they can continue the fight, but we're going to be probably fighting right alongside with them to protect our rights, our liberties, our freedoms, our religion, our wives, our children. I think these days are coming. And they're usually brought to us by tyranny, by judges who are corrupt, by lawyers who are corrupt. The entire Democrat Party. So anyways, that is the Third Amendment today. Look these things up, and I would encourage you to read the Federalist Papers and see the discussion between those people who are debating these amendments and see what they have to say about it. And don't believe everything that the Supreme Court says when they give you an interpretation, because the Supreme Court has been wrong so many times throughout the history of this country. Slaves are considered property. Back in the 1800s, they're nothing more than property. Yeah, that was marvelous. Good job there again. That women have a right to murder unborn children. Stuff like that. Wrong, and wrong. Anyhow, this is the Craig L. Hayes Show. I am Craig L. Hayes. Thank you for joining me today. And we'll see you on the next podcast, which will be the Fourth Amendment.